Sophie Mokoena to talk to us more about the mayoral candidate. Sophie, a very good morning to you and thank you so much for joining us. I know a lot of people are saying that that list came out so late and a lot of people don't know the names as yet. Do tell us about the process that went into choosing.
Well, of course, the ANC started with the process of asking its branches at local level, because the policy of the ANC is that the ANC is the ANC because it has got branches. In other words, the branches are the important component of the structure itself, that is the ANC or the party itself. Therefore, parties, the branches did make nominations of 3 names that they felt should be presented to the community where they live in terms of choosing names. And therefore, after that process, those 3 names, after they were endorsed by the public, they were taken to the region, and then the region also looked at the names, and then the names were taken to the province. And of course, the province has submitted, or provinces did submit names to national. And therefore, the ANC looked at the names, and the names were registered with the IEC. But what was happening right now, it was a question of finalizing the candidates who will be mayors. And in most of these cities, the metros and what they call strategic municipalities. For an example, when you talk about strategic municipality, you'll be talking about, let's say, a town like Rustenburg, which is growing. You really have to pay attention to it. Therefore, when you deploy a mayor in Rustenburg, you must make sure that it's a person who will be able to rise to the challenge in terms of service delivery, but understand the administration, understand the policy of the ANC, and be committed to deliver. When you talk about strategic town, where we are going to have the SK dish in the Northern Cape, it is a point of growth there. Therefore, you need someone who will understand the dynamics there, but who will be able to deliver in terms of what is happening there. Maybe a person who has got interest in science as well, because you must be able to understand what's happening there so that you can bring development. And from there, you then have your metros. Of course, all parties are keen to see what's likely to happen in the metros, particularly after elections. And therefore, ANC has presented the candidates who will be contesting, but will be mayors after the elections, should the ANC be the party that take over those metros.
Now, Sophie, I mean, as women, you know, I have to ask this. The issue of gender parity, specifically going forth with these elections, was put forth specifically by the ruling party, and we understand that they've actually announced that 2 municipalities have, or 2 rather mayoral candidates have been announced. Do take us through.
I think after the ANC was found wanting 2014 in terms of the premiers, this time around the Women's League and the ANC itself made a point that they don't repeat the same mistake. Because when you check in 2014, the ANC was found wanting in terms of women premiers. We only have 1 premier from the ruling party. And then, of course, you have the premier, Helen Zille, which is DA. Therefore, there was an effort to ensure that there are women. And it is for that reason, Mangaung, the candidate there, May Olim Lamleli, who was once a civil servant during the late May Winky Direkwa's premiership, and then she became a politician right during
so she's risen through the ranks.
Premiership, and she is currently the MEC of local government and housing. Therefore, she's got an experience of being a civil servant, but also of being a politician, and she's a woman. But secondly, she is also the chairperson of the ANC Women's League in that province. Therefore, that was clear that she could be a better candidate for the ANC in that province with all the experience. And then you also have Deben eThekwini. Also there you have a woman, and also an indication that ANC in that province take issues of women seriously. And there are reports, I expect Tshwane, I don't know, I might be wrong.
We're all waiting to find out.
I expect Tshwane to surprise us. We may have a woman, and the name that's doing the rounds, it's of Togo Didiza. You'd recall, a former minister. Currently, she's in parliament, very seasoned, not reporter, a politician.
Yes.
But yeah, she's been there, and yeah.
But Sophie, any notion on when we're going to find out? I mean, it's such a big suspense now that we need to find out who this mayoral candidate is. Are we going to find out by the end of today? Can you give us a time frame?
Yes, I think so. You know what, that's what elections all about, you know, that whole anxiety to see the results,
Yes.
campaigning and all that, which reminds me of how people in the continent are like, yo, South Africans, they really take local government elections seriously. Yes, we're definitely going to know end of business today, because yesterday the Secretary General, Gwede Mantashe, at around 12 midnight told us that indeed they will send the NEC delegation and the province to go to the region to consult the branches and make those proposals, and they do have names.
But Sophie, to wrap this all up, I mean, I know the ruling party has spoken much on this issue, but why was there so much tension during the candidacy list process?
Well, you see, clearly the ANC is a ruling party.
Yes.
It's an incumbent, and anyone would want to be part of a winning horse or a person who's in charge. Therefore, many people would want to influence the ANC in terms of the decisions that are taken, particularly at local government level. Therefore, there was a contestation. But yesterday, I did pose a question to the Deputy Secretary General, Major Situate, the question, how are they going to handle this in future? Are they going to continue with the same approach of ensuring that they present 3 names to the community? If the community decide we don't want those 3 names and they come up with someone who's not even an ANC, how are they going to go about it? And this is what she had to say. Let's take a listen.
Important lesson is, how do you balance the interests of the community and the ANC as a liberation movement with a particular agenda in sight? And that's been a key challenge for us. And obviously we would look at whether our process in getting candidates is a process that fulfills that particular balance. It does, you know, whatever you do now in a democracy, there will always be a winner and somebody who did not win. And when you brittle it down to its most fundamental unit, which doesn't often happen in democracies, people begin to own the process, and they're very, very enthusiastic and emotional about it.
Interesting. I don't know if it's rumors or what should we call it, Sophie, but I'd like you to give clarity on that. There was some word about the SG having to re-register some names in the Eastern Cape. What is the story around there? Please explain to us.
Last week, there were reports that in the Nelson Mandela Bay, there are branches who are not happy, and they were promised that they will reconsider the names and the list. And the Secretary General last night, when I asked him, he was quite frank and he was very robust, saying it's not going to happen because of the process of the IEC. You have registered and it's done and dusted. Let's take a listen at what the ANC Secretary General had to say about that issue.
All right, unfortunately, we don't have that issue, but we don't have that package ready right now, Sophie. But what else can you tell us pertaining to the candidates list before we wrap up?
I think now it will be up to the candidates themselves. They will be the face of the ANC to ensure that they go out, they campaign, and of course other parties will also fill their own candidates, and contestation has started. And let's see what happens on the 3rd of August on the voting day.
All right, that package now is there. Here's what the Secretary General of the ANC said regarding the re-registering of those candidates.
Registration of candidates was closed on the 2nd of June at 5 o'clock. So anybody who goes about making false promises that will correct this and that, you are creating a false hope. You rather confront the situation and say, we think there was a mess here, there was a mistake here, a candidate was changed here. You better confront that situation rather than creating false expectation that there will be correction of some list. Registration of candidates was closed on the 2nd of June at 5 o'clock.
Well, our foreign editor and acting political editor has been very busy this morning. What else do you have for us?
Well, I think as a foreign editor also, what I did was to ask our foreign bureaus to look at what's happening in different countries pertaining to local government elections. And it was quite interesting to get comments from the AU. The continent is watching us and quite impressed how we are ensuring that we strengthen democracy in all spheres of government. You talk national elections, provincial, and also local government elections. And it looks like the continent is surprised that local government we take local government very serious. And let's take a listen at this package that was compiled by our correspondent in AU.
All right.
Reports from the African Union show that since the late 1980s and early 1990s, many African countries have been conducting elections on a regular basis. The continent has widely moved away from military rule, one-party rule and the one president for life syndrome. The African Union Commission for Political Affairs, which monitors all elections, says despite this progress, all member countries can do more to improve the democratic process.
So I said the first challenge is that of entrenching the regularity of local government elections. Second is to ensure that to enhance the democratic quality of our elections. The third is addressing voter apathy, in particular amongst the youth.
The African Union says one area of concern as the continent develops democratic processes is their financing, and is urging member states not to turn to external sources to meet these costs.
It's important that when we conduct our elections, we earmark adequate resources to ensure that the electoral processes happen, funded by African countries themselves, not our partners. Even if our partners fund, anyway, it shouldn't really be the largest proportion. It should be supplementary.
The African Union highlights that many Africans are yet to fully recognize the importance of local elections when it comes to overall governance. The Union says South Africa is setting a good example on how local government elections should be conducted.
When you look at the TV and you look at how parties are mobilizing votes, campaigning, launching the manifestos, you would mistake it for a national election. That's the way we want to go. We want to elevate the local government election to that level of political awareness, right, of our populations, political parties, and all candidates that contest elections.
Elections in Africa are guided by the African Charter on Democracy, Governance and Elections. The African Union wants its member countries to realize the importance of local elections in enabling local communities to exercise their democratic rights and ensure good governance and accountability on a local level. Colette Wanjoy for SABC in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Well, Sophie, elections is like live news. You just never know what to expect. I mean, speaking of that candidate that we're still waiting to hear, what can you tell us on that as a wrap?
No, I think before end of business, we'll bring you the news as soon as we get confirmation in terms of what has transpired. Our office in Pretoria, they are currently on the ground. They are actually trying to get hold of the region and the province and national to find out when can we get the news of who is going to be the candidate for the ANC at the Tshwane Metro. And of course, the ANC has descended to Eastern Cape at Nelson Mandela Bay.
Sophie.
We are there.
Thank you so much to our foreign editor as well as acting political editor, Sophie Mokoena.